knockout roses, just $19.99. And that's $5 below Bob's already low price. And there's the fragrant hybrid tea roses and others of the famous Fortuniana rootstock, just $26.99. Yes, everything's coming up roses at the big 5-acre Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala, Southeast 38th Street. Open daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. In the same blooming place for more than 65 years.
All right, thank you. 20 minutes after 8 o'clock, and this weekend is Veterans Day weekend, and we were just talking about some of the specials that some of the restaurants are offering. There's even a barber shop that's offering a free haircut. There might be more than one, by the way. The only one I had was the one in Naples, and I know that's kind of a drive, but I think there are others here, and I apologize. We didn't have the complete, well, we have the complete list. We just didn't have time to read the whole list. It just, but anyway, if you served, first of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, the rest of us who didn't serve really had no idea what it was like for you to come back after serving. Life is different in the military than it is in civilian life, and you took it and ran with it and made great lives for yourselves and made our lives better in the process. But there is something that we need to learn about this. J.D. Crouch is on the phone. He's the president and CEO of the USO. What a great organization. It's got something called the USO Pathfinder program that helps service members and their families transform back to civilian life after having served in the military. J.D., good morning, sir. Thank you, and what an honor.
Good morning.
Where are you?
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm up in Arlington, Virginia, right near the Pentagon.
Oh, my gosh.
Nice.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. We always think of the USO as the shows that Bob Hope made so famous, but I know you guys do so much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Americans don't know. We run a network of over 200 centers all over the world, from Kansas all the way to Kandahar. We're in Jacksonville, of course, and we're all over the country and really all over the world.
So give me an example of how a veteran who is returning to civilian life might work with the USO in order to make that transition easier.
Right. Well, to start out with, the central challenge of military life, as you said, is you're separated, right? You wear different clothes, you go places, you do things that, there's really no analog to what we do in the civilian world. So when you come back, you need help in that reintegration. These are very talented people. They've done things that are amazing. They know how to work as teams. They know how to make decisions. They've used a lot of very expensive equipment and all that stuff, and they're great potential people back in our workforce. But they have often never lived in that civilian workforce. So what we did is we established something called the Pathfinder program, and this is it's all over the country. We're actually going to be setting up a center in Jacksonville this year or early next year. And what it does is it helps them reintegrate into civilian life, not just in helping them on the employment side, but all the other things that are necessary, health care, or maybe it's housing, or maybe it's trying to get the advantage of their educational benefits or things like that. These are resources that are out there for them that they don't know how to connect to. And what we do is connect them to those resources, build a plan that's customized to them, and then be kind of their mentor through that process.
How recently does their exit from the military have to have had happened? Could it be somebody who's been out of the military for 5 years, for example?
It can be somebody though our focus is on the 200,000 that get out every year. And so we're not really focused on people who've been out for a long time. We want actually to get people to work on this 12 to 18 months before they separate from the military.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Show that in that first 12 months after separation, if things are not going well, that's when things get bad.
Oh.
And so, in other words, plan for your separation from the military. Most of the people that we talk to are coming to us about 6 months ahead of time, and then we'll work with you up to 12 months or more afterwards. Now, I'll tell you, we're not going to turn away anybody. We're not turning away our veterans.
Gotcha.
But our focus is really on that 200,000.
Well, that's a smart approach to that, I think. How?
Yeah. Well, our view. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask about, do you help them as far as guiding them into an education, like to getting more college and that kind of thing if they need it?
Well, what the scout does is they sit down with this person. And by the way, this is also open to their spouses. And often the spouses are the ones who end up getting the first jobs and that sort of thing. A large percentage of our military is married now. That's a relatively new thing. So the scout sits down with them and develops this action plan, beginning with the question of, what do you want to do? Not, right. I was a truck driver in the Army, so I'm going to be a truck driver in the U.S.
Right.
And what they want to do may require them to go back and get some additional education. So we can connect them to educational resources in their communities. We actually have programs that we have with partnerships with companies like Microsoft and others that can get them certifications if they want to go into the IT area, for example. And then from there, what are the other things that they need? And then we connect them into that community resources. One of the great things about 2017, unlike the post-Vietnam era, is that there really are a lot of things out there to help support our veterans. It's getting them connected to them and making sure that they're the right things that they need, and that's what the USO is all about.
And you also have a mobile responsive action plan app, which is pretty amazing.
That's correct. So, obviously this is a very digital generation. If you go, the number one selected program at a USO center these days, big surprise, Wi-Fi. So these people love working on their screens, and so when you get connected through our mobile, you get connected to a Pathfinder, your entire action plan is on your phone, and it's tracked. You can interact with the scout that way. You may not even be in the same time zone, and you can have connectivity that way. So, and that way we can track and make sure that we're providing the services that we want to provide and that they're high quality.
And when I flew out of Tampa Airport, I noticed you have a USO office right there.
Yes, we're in a lot of airports. That's it's a great service that we provide to active duty and particularly the spouses. There's nothing like walking into a USO center and seeing a spouse, maybe with 2 or 3 children trailing, and they've got a long layover because they got the cheapest flight from the government, and they can sit there and relax, and we'll kind of entertain the kids and give them a few moments to themselves. It's the kind of thing that happens all over the country, and we even have those things all over the world. So it's a great service. And by the way, all of those centers are well informed about our Pathfinder program. So if they want to learn more about it, they just need to go and ask somebody there.
Okay. I want you to know that this radio station has an intimate relationship with our veterans. We have a veterans program every Thursday. One of the owners of the station is the vice president of a group called Vets Helping Vets. It's a very veteran-friendly community. And as part of that, we've had guests in the studio who are employers, and they will tell us that when they hire a vet, it's almost like the veteran has already this built-in work ethic that he doesn't see in most non-veterans. Mm-hmm. And so with that said, is that part of it too? Do you recruit or do you bring on employers into the program so that they already know about what's going on so they could perhaps be there for the veteran looking for something?
Absolutely. We have, look, the veterans are in a employers are in a competition out there for the best people, and they're finding, the smart companies are finding, and they're the Boeings and the Starbucks and the JP Morgans and people like us who have got dedicated veterans programs. And they're finding, you're absolutely right, that these people have a work ethic, the ability to work as teams, the ability to take responsibility for their actions. They have great ethics. These are the hardest things to teach somebody.
Right,
teaching them, how Citibank does this or that is easy compared to those kinds of things.
Right.
Can you imagine being able to take that off the shelf and then build on it? And so no, it's absolutely, we have relationships with employers and we connect with them, and a lot of these companies have got really dedicated programs. By the way, thank you and your company, your organization, for what they're doing to support veterans.
Absolutely. I know we're up against the clock. Can you give us a website so we know what to tell the veterans who call in and say, I caught the last end of that?
Yeah.
Where can I go?
Right. Yeah. So go to www.uso.org and look under our programs and look for the Pathfinder program to learn more about this. Or if you're active duty, Guard or Reserve, or a family member, go visit a USO center. And there are centers all over the country, including in Jacksonville.
All right.
Nice.
Excellent. JD, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today, and thank you for your service as well.
It's my pleasure. I have the best job in the world.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, we will be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Here are today's headlines from The Source, WOCA. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, along with the Marion County Sheriff's Office and the Bellevue Police Department, are reporting that a 19-year-old Bellevue woman was shot and killed yesterday morning. The woman is identified as Sarah Dixon. The report identifies the shooter as 20-year-old Frank Ralston Friday. Friday was involved in a vehicle accident off Baseline Road near Golf Park Estates and fled on foot. Law enforcement pursued Friday, who then shot himself. Friday is listed in critical condition. The report states that Bellevue police first responded to a report of a shooting at 8:30 a.m. yesterday at a duplex in the 5900 block of Front Street in Bellevue, where they found Dixon's body lying on the pavement. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd is encouraging people to buy guns in the wake of the church massacre in Texas.
Carry a firearm safely, use a firearm safely, get your concealed firearm license, and be prepared to protect your fellow person. A good person with a gun is not a danger to society.
In a tweet following the mass shooting, Judd says the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and his office offers active shooter training. Judd says he's only talking about people who are not criminals and can legally arm themselves. The Florida Alliance for Retired Americans is asking for legislature to investigate Governor Rick Scott.
Dave Jacobson with the Alliance says they want to know why Governor Rick Scott did not respond to calls for help from a nursing home where 14 people died after Hurricane Irma knocked out the air conditioning.
Governor Scott's failure to respond to desperate calls for help and the subsequent deletion of voice messages only begs more questions. 12,000 Floridians are demanding answers.
Those 12,000 names he mentioned are on a petition submitted to the House Speaker and the Senate President calling for an investigation. Rick Flagg, Tallahassee.
A powerful senator is taken off the chairman's post of a major committee as the result of a sexual harassment scandal. Jack Latvala is under investigation by the Senate after 6 women claimed he groped them and made lewd comments. Longtime lobbyist Barbara Devane says it's part of the Tallahassee culture, and most of the women who work with the legislature have been harassed.
People don't mess with me too much, especially now that I'm 75. I don't have to go through that. But when I was a young lobbyist, I was approached by a representative, and I told him in no uncertain terms that I do not lobby horizontally.
Even today, Devane says young women in short skirts are often in the front rows of committee hearings to close the deal on critical legislation. $180 million. That's the bottom line on tax cuts in the governor's upcoming budget, and Governor Rick Scott says Florida can afford it.
These tax reductions are important. We have the money. We have a projected $3 billion of projected revenues over recurring expenses, so we need to continue year after year after year reducing taxes.
to reach that $180 million goal. Scott is asking state lawmakers to reduce the fees on driver's licenses. The governor also wants 4 sales tax holidays next year, 3 for hurricane supplies and 1 for back-to-school shopping. Veterans Day is this Friday, and to honor active and retired members of the military, the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex is offering free admission to all veterans. Active duty, retired, and reserve members of the United States military can get complimentary admission to the Kennedy Space Center this coming Friday through Sunday. In addition, they can save 50% off admission for up to 3 guests in their party. There's more information on the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex website. And those are the headlines from the source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
The City of Ocala Department of Recreation and Parks are proud to present the 34th annual Light Up Ocala on November 18th. The fun starts on the square in downtown Ocala from 4 to 9 p.m. There'll be food vendors, 4 stages of entertainment, Whoville, Theme Kids Zone, the